Now, since we've already called the meeting to order, what would you like me to do?
Well, rely on the communication link matter that we had, which was the issue. So you got a motion to adjourn until it was restarted. And so it's now restarted. So I would ask if seeing that the specified place could advise us when it was no longer live.
Through to the chair, the live stream did not work from the start of the meeting, so I would begin from the beginning. Thank you.
I think that would be appropriate, your worship, because we're never in a public setting.
Okay.
And I call your worship as well. I mean.
Yeah, it's the. Mayor Milligan is on the phone, by your place, taking a phone right now. Okay, my apologies, everyone. That's just tuning in now. We had the technical difficulties due to our required specified place not being able to witness the beginning of the meeting. We're adjourned, and what we'll do is we'll just start over again from the beginning. And in that vein, I will say again that welcome to the special meeting of council for February 7th, 2023. And I will go through our land acknowledgement again. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within the Rockanamuckets, the unceded traditional territory of the Inuit. We recognize that we live and work within their vast land. I can now see once I mess up the one, I can't do it anymore. My apologies. Are from the Yapik Inuit and are members of the Knahasan people of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. Apologies for any native speakers that were watching that. I would like to call the meeting to order and begin with a request from council for a motion regarding a communication link that if the communication link to discuss a live place within the meeting is interrupted by the meeting and cannot be restored within 15 minutes, the meeting shall adjourn and reconvene to the soonest possible time that quorum can be achieved and public notice requirements met. May I have a motion?
Believe the first time Councilor Hamilton kind of first round.
Okay, very good. Hamilton and Roma. Thank you. And any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, I now ask for approval of the agenda and any related items. Motion. Okay. I just calling Councilor Hamilton, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So once again, now we'll go back to the business at hand, which is Fernie capital budget 2023 to 2027. Item 4.1. Take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McIsaac. Hello, Council. Welcome to night 2 of our 2023 budget meetings. The focus tonight will be discussing our upcoming major projects, 2023 capital plan, and our projected reserves balances for the end of 2023 and 4 years following that. Here's the agenda for this evening. I'll revisit a couple of outstanding items from last night's operating budget meeting. I also have a few late changes to some of the capital sheets in your binder that I will show you. After that, I will start going through the capital plan workbook and we'll look at a high-level summary of our projects by department. And then our reserve balances and contributions, and then we'll get a little deeper into each department with all of our directors and managers in more detail. Throughout those departmental slides, as I said, I'll be flipping into directors and managers, and they're going to talk about their major projects. I'll then close our presentation by reminding council of our initial shortfall number and expected tax rate, and then talk about next steps and the next budget meeting. And we are tonight, February 7th. As a reminder to council, staff tonight is not seeking direction. That's just for council's information. This whole presentation. The next budget meeting will be February 15th across the street at the Senior Center. That'll be a public open house. And after that, it'll be February 28th at the regular meeting of council, where we will be discussing the tax rate and asking for council's direction. Some follow-up from last night. Councillor Nixon asked about the $1,000 line item in revenue for short-term business licenses. This is on page 7 of your binders. That line alongside the 78,000 that was in business licenses further up on the same page were done in conjunction with business licenses being generated in January and mailed for 2023. So now that that process is more or less complete, I was able to do a little more digging today and find a more complete answer. So for this year, we have 894 active business licenses, of which 153 are short-term rentals. So that 894 at $100 each equates to $89,400 in business license revenue, which is $10,400 more than the original $79,000 estimate I had in the first draft of the budget. So good catch on that. Councilor Henderson. Also on this slide, that table on the bottom there is our monthly report that has been generating from our new short-term rental software, Granicus. As you can see, the amount of properties are generally increasing each month as we become aware of more in town. But it's also very much a work in progress, as you can see by the unknown compliance column, which climbs as we become aware of more properties. Non-compliant, however, has been steadily decreasing, so we are making progress in that area with that new software. Also from Councillor Nixon was the inquiry into the LGLA seminar, which has not been held since 2019. It is being held next month in Kimberley, and we've added a budget line item of $5,000 for councillors to attend that event, should you choose to do so. Fire Chief Morgan also confirmed his percentage from last night, which states that 14% of calls go to the RDEK area and Eagle area. Also, I distributed to council this afternoon some info sheets on the 6 investment products that the MFA offers. This and other available products will be researched and presented to council when an investment policy comes to council, hopefully later this year. Also, and this item didn't make the slide because I just received this email about an hour ago, but I got an email from Fortis, and I believe this is page, I didn't put the page number, I think it's page 41 of your binders. They pay 3% of their annual sales in the area to us as they're kind of in lieu of property tax. And I had estimated that amount is going to be $121,000 for this year, which I thought was fairly aggressive. It's like 10% increase, and I just based that based on what other communities are doing and what I've seen in my own tax bill or gas bill and other people's gas bills. But anyway, I got that email an hour ago. The actual increase this year is closer to 30%, which equates to an extra $24,000 worth of revenue for the city. Which is a reduction of about 23% in tax rate, so that's good news. And some other, yeah.
Reduction of 23% on 7.4%. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're going to give us $24,000 more revenue than I had in the first draft of the budget. Yeah, which will reduce tax rate. Some other late changes to pass on since council received their initial budget package late last week. Unfortunately, I was unable to get a new package printed. I was planning on just printing the updated pages, but we got all these pages flow into each other, and it ended up being like half of the binder. And then I thought there could be more changes that happened as a result of tonight, so I just made the decision to reprint the binder tomorrow and redistribute it to all of you based on the changes that we've come up with these first 2 meetings. But on pages 33 and 34 of your binder package, starting with this page, which is page 34, there was an incorrect amount in 2024 for the sorry, here we go. There was an incorrect amount in 2024 for the skate park covered area as being $150,000. The amount of that project is actually $500,000 and only funded by RMI to the amount of $150,000. The rest of the funding for that $500,000 was originally listed on page 33 as funding of the skate park. And so on your screen there, you can see that 250 on the bottom has been moved to page 34. And on your updated page 33, the funding source for the skate park has been amended to be gas tax as was originally directed by council. So there's a couple of changes on those two slides. Also, the grant funding available for skate park is $1,282,000. Your original binder package had $1,202,000. So the grant amount has been corrected on this updated sheet. Now to page 26 of the workbooks, which is fire capital. We've had some new information regarding.
We just go back one. I'm just wondering about the, with this, the skate park grant funding. Are you showing? You were showing it in the 2023 budget, but I thought in our discussion yesterday, we had talked about how the grant amounts are shown in the year that they are spent. So shouldn't it be actually show? Oh yeah, we're in 2023, it's gonna get all those here. Oh, I'm way ahead, 2 steps ahead. What's going on? Okay, thank you.
So then page 26 of your workbooks, which is fire capital. We've had a little new information regarding the purchase of the new ladder truck. Fire Chief Morgan will explain that information on his slides. And at that point, I'll jump in again and explain the change I've made on this page, but you can see it there. I've got $225,000 now for a ladder truck in 2023, which is essentially a 10% down payment. And then the delivery of that truck and the remainder of that balance is to be paid in 2026. And again, Fire Chief Morgan will talk about that in more detail a little later. Next, page 27 of your binders. There's a note on level of service and citizen engagement framework. I mentioned last night that we have $15,000 in this year's operating budget to update and implement the citizen satisfaction survey in 2023. Your original budget package, though, on this page 27, the very last project, there was an item titled Citizen Evaluation Survey Development. That line should actually read level of service public engagement. There was a typo there. Also for 2024, you can see on your screen, there's now $30,000 up top for a citizen engagement framework, which Director Jansen intends to speak more to you about that during her slides. Lastly, on page 23 of your binders, I accidentally had an incorrect number for water and sewer reserve contribution levels. But I'm going to show that slide not long from now, so I don't have it up here just yet, but I just had the wrong amount there. But first, I'll invite Mr. Bornowski to talk about our organizational objectives and how we've worked those into this year's budget cycle and capital.
Thank you, Bernard. Here we are. Council will now be familiar with the organizational objectives. We spoke a little bit about how we worked this year to link the budget to the strategic organization objectives that have been adopted, but also to the asset management policy, which has policy language embedded within it that should be guiding our investment and operations and planning. Pardon me. We did this through a project prioritization framework developed by Jansen and input from the leadership team that essentially took the projects that we were bringing forward as a long list and then provided rankings. It's a decision matrix, provided rankings for them based on their alignment with the strategic organizational objectives, whether they advanced the commitments that are within the asset management policy. Did the project address an imminent risk to life, property, safety, environment, legal, or financial consequences? Is it something that we just need to do to manage risk in a very serious way? Is there a general understanding or perception of public support or stakeholder advocacy for the project to advance? Is it operationally and financially sustainable? Or is there external agency or partner dependency on the project moving forward or support for the project? moving forward. So are we depending on an external agency for that funding, such as our grant funded projects? We ranked each of these after having reviewed them through capital request forms, consolidated the rankings, and then the lowest ranked projects were then reviewed by Director Burdett and I, and the directors who were responsible for those projects. Low ranked projects that weren't critical to be taken care of this year were moved to future years, 24 or beyond, or the scope and complexity has been reduced to try and reduce our overall capital burden, plus to make sure that the capital plan that we are bringing forward is more reasonably achievable. So in this way, what we've done is tried to use our asset management policy and organizational objectives to frame our capital program and major projects for the coming year. They are organized around major themes. Those are the same, you'll see those department by department, but touching on the themes that the major projects and capital efforts are related to within those departments. That's committing to timely and compelling communication, so communicating our level of service, what we provide, at what level we provide it, defining that is our focus at the level of service project this year, increasing the opportunity to engage and communicate with the community. The town hall next week is one example of those. We have many in-person engagements or consultations related to our major project, in particular, the large planning project of an official community plan, community strategic planning. And we're relocating meetings to the accessible place while still also streaming our meetings and allowing online and in-person participation, which is not universal in municipalities our size. The next theme is creating long-term financial stability. Our goals here are continually reviewing and improving our budgeting process, but focus on planning further out for our reserve contributions and improving their health. Long-term planning for major infrastructure replacement, why we have some deferred projects that were in wastewater that are now, we're doing the long-term planning to have a better comprehensive solution to protect that over the long term. And advancing our official community plan and strategic planning so that we know the needs and priorities of council and the community to then guide our long-term planning and spending. Investing in core infrastructure and service delivery is the next strategic objective. 2023 investments are really focused on water, wastewater, and addressing our end-of-life infrastructure and operating projects that improve our organizational effectiveness and performance. Many of Ms. Jansen and team's projects around improving our basic business function and technology landscape are very helpful there. And also the level of service project to establish what our services are and what our baselines are for those services, so we can start to really report and focus and improve. That's a deliverable that we've been looking forward to starting to work on. Building an inclusive community, you will note, and near the very end of the PowerPoint presentation tonight, Mr. McConnell will speak to it a little bit. We are required to have an accessibility committee and start working on an accessibility plan this year. We're an impacted organization, but universal accessibility and design is now centered in our public capital works. We are engaging on priorities, empowering the community through the OCP, through strategic planning and consultation on the engagement, trying to make it more accessible and inclusive in terms of engaging with us on budget.
I just have a question there on the language used in that first bullet point, in our public capital works. What does that refer to? What does that exclude? Or am I misunderstanding language of public-private?
No, certainly, we aren't really focused on universal accessibility when it's piped in the ground. It's much less a concern. We have, say, lift stations or PRVs that don't need to meet a specific accessibility requirement to support the community.
Thank you.
That's about it. Where it is. Yeah. Streamlining application processes, reducing barriers to development and building in the community through the LDDAP or DAPR project, and preparing for more inclusive meeting space with council. Also, and finally, dedicated to future-proofing the community. There are a number of projects that are doing the engineer and design work this year to create shovel-ready projects in the future so that we are grant-ready rather than scrambling when grant funding streams are developed or announced. Being proactive there, reviewing our fees, charges, financial control so that we can continually improve how we address user pay versus taxpayer funded services. Redeveloping our budget process, we are going to be reviewing and then re-entering budgeting very quickly after this process. To continually improve that, and investing in climate resiliency is big. As you know, we have a grant application out there for additional diking work. We have a capital project for diking work and transportation focus project, as well as protecting our water source for the community. Those are the major strategic objectives that are adopted that we've used to focus our work so that it is aligned with adopted values. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Mr. Burdett, and you'll hear more about those objectives and how projects align with them as we get through the department. Thank you.
Actually, a few more slides to me before I move over to Jeremy. This slide is a very high level summary of by department of our 5-year capital plan. Most of the projects that make up these numbers will be discussed shortly by our various directors. I also want to remind council that the 2022 actual column is still very much in draft format. That said, one of the bigger projects that was budgeted in 2022, the skate park, as you know, has been pushed to 2023. So that explains why our actual budget is much lower than the rest of it. This slide outlines the funding sources, which and I know it's very small, outlines the funding sources that are on the previous slide. Of our $14.7 million worth of projects.
And this is page 22 in your workbook binders, if you prefer something that's like a little pencil for your.
Thank you. Of our $14.7 million worth of projects this year, 44% of those are budgeted to be funded through our reserves. And last year was 78% for reference in that number. And all of these slides have the changes that I referred to earlier. Yes.
Could you expand on the difference? What's making the difference, that big jump between spending out of reserves primarily last year and much less so this year? What has changed about that?
Just the level of grant that we happen to have on this plan. This year we've got the very large grant that's in water projects right now, $5.68 million. And also the skate park is in this year again. Last year, we just had the skate park, which we touched on yesterday, because the annex dike and Fernie Valley pathway were originally budgeted in 2021. But this year I'm carrying forward the grants, so that's why the skate park's in this year again. Right. Then, you know, next year, if we just don't have big grants like that, then the percentage will be a little higher.
Gotcha, thank you.
Welcome. And then this slide is our budgeted reserve balances for every year from 2023 to 2027. Again, I realize it's very busy. This is page 23 of your binders, if that helps. I referred earlier to the change that I made to our contributions to water and sewer reserves. I believe on your original package, those were 662,000 and 645,000, when in fact they should be 683,000 and 658,000 effectively. And that's on the slide on your screen. And the reason for that is I was just using an older budget, or an older version of one of my earlier draft numbers, and I forgot to update them. You'll notice in later years, some of our reserves are forecasted to go negative, such as mobile equipment reserve, come fire truck ladder time, and the sewer reserve. And as we complete more work on asset management and our long-term financial plan, those balances will be amended to include funding options other than reserves, because obviously a reserve cannot go negative. Or certain projects will have to be deferred as necessary, or contribution levels to those reserves will have to be adjusted. For ending this year though, 2023, we do look pretty healthy. Our budgeted ending reserve balance is higher than our budgeted ending reserve balance from last year. So that's great.
If I may, as we go further down the asset management road and become more cognizant of the like budgeting for the replacement of facilities in the future, currently like we're planning for today, and I'll pick an example of the aquatic center. The pools don't last forever, we're gonna have to build another. but we're not currently building a reserve to replace the pool. But at some point in time, we are going to start doing that, right? So if we see that happening over the next, I presume with asset management moving forward fairly rapidly, we're gonna see this happen sometime in the next few years, if we're gonna start. What's gonna happen on the reserve sheet then? Are we gonna see a lot more negatives up here? In anticipation of asset replacement costs and so on that we're not currently anticipating? Or are we currently anticipating? Just want to see it here.
So my goal for, to have for next year's budget process would be a longer term plan, like 20-year capital plan and reserve plan.
Yeah.
And in none of those years should they ever go negative. This year, we just made an effort to expand it to 5 years and we didn't get too deep in terms of 5-year financial planning, which is why some of them are still negative. But that's my ultimate goal, and I think that also aligns with what Director Jansen is also trying to help achieve with our budget cycle. And so does that help answer your question?
Yeah, so it's a plan in creation where, as we get more information, the plan gets further out and we get better data.
Yeah. I also have a little point about this on my finance slide where I was gonna talk about a 20-year plan as well. But
Okay, do you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, if I may, Elizabeth, to add the data behind the numbers for the recommended reserve contributions is based on our full inventory. And it looks at 3 replacement cycles, so
okay.
over 100 years. And the numbers are based on the recommended numbers are based on the average annual reinvestment. So it is being considered, but we're not seeing that yet. For the 20-year capital plan. We're not seeing it.
Excellent, thank you for that clarification. Councilor,
I think Commissioner Nancy just answered my question. My question was, are there currently any unknowns in that replacement cycle of, cost that's obviously we don't know what the cost escalation are going to be, but boogeyman in the closet, so to speak, costs that we're not quite sure that we're looking at, but it sounds like we've already got the models in the background of those replacement costs 3 times over for future stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, those models are from 2016, 2017, so they do need to be updated. And the last few years, as you know, we haven't been contributing to reserves at those levels, so there are updates that need to happen there and more long-term planning.
If I may, Chair, through Mayor Milligan and the council, there are, however, always a boogeyman in the closet, so to speak, and cost increases in certain materials can be extremely high. Exchange rates can change, and so these are very much projections and models, but not perfect data. You're not looking with Class A cost estimate. You're not. It's sophisticated, but not exact. If that makes sense.
but the map is not the terrain.
The map is not the terrain, and the crystal ball is not always functional, as you'll see, and are probably well aware of with things like ladder or leak.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we are going to department level for some more detail. So starting with the finance department. This is a list of what I have on the go for 2023, or what finance has on the go for 2023, beyond our day-to-day activities. E-timesheets, we still do all of our timesheets by hand, which obviously takes a lot of time. That hopefully rolling out in the next couple of months. There's been some work already done on the server, getting ready for the install of that module. So that's progressing.
Is that citywide that we do by hand time sheets or, okay,
Yeah,
not just the finance department?
pretty well. Yeah. So that'll be a staged rollout, starting with like leadership, make sure it goes smoothly, and then doing it well. Our DCC bylaw update in conjunction with planning and engineering. that's been on all of our, been in our eye for quite a while now, and we intend to begin that process this year. I mentioned a few times yesterday about purchasing moving to finance. We also talked yesterday about the investment policy that the city should have endorsed by council. Continued work on asset management and building some of our financial modeling, as I was just saying, out past a few years from now. This can only help staff and council make more informed decisions of what we can and can't afford and when we should be replacing things. Grant tracking is something we centralized in finance in 2022, but still an ongoing project. We've got several different grants, all with different reporting frequencies and reporting requirements, and it really helps keep this centralized so we don't forget. There's a new accounting standard for municipalities revolving around ARO, or asset retirement obligation. And that comes into effect for our 2023 year end. So that is a large data gathering project and interviewing all of our directors and managers and potentially creating some sort of fund to retire our assets at the end of their life cycles. Most municipalities are finding that they have a lot of asbestos in their buildings, or they've got some contaminated ground at their yard or things like that. And then yeah, lastly, this year end, 2022 year end, is the last year on our audit contract, so I'll be having to go to RFP for that and bringing the results back to council for awarding a new audit contract.
Mr. Ronald. Thanks, Your Worship. Just wanted a little bit of understanding of the point number 2 there, the bylaw update, like what exactly is that?
So that's the bylaw that dictates what we charge developers for their projects, and then there's a list of projects that those funds can be spent on. And I can't remember, I don't know the last time it was updated. Anybody? 2015. So that list of projects and those fees, and they all need to be updated, and we need to ensure that we're not subsidizing the cost of development and so on. So that's a big undertaking. It's been on our list for a couple of years.
Thank you. I looked away for a moment. Mayor Milligan, please go.
Thank you. Director Burdett, the couple of questions. The ARO, that could be a significant obligation. Will we fund that with an ARO reserve, or will that be funded in individual departments to identify the individual asset retirement obligations each department and funded through their own planning? Like, how would that be funded?
I don't have, I mean, the answer to that is that it kind of depends on what the amount ends up being. A lot of municipalities our size aren't recording that large of an amount, and so that, you know, they will be funding it from like an annual draw from their financial operating stability reserve. But if it is big enough and it is significant for the next 5, 10, 20 years, then we may have to look at creating a new reserve fund for that. So I guess those are some options of how to fund it, but until we do the work, that's the answer is that it depends.
Thank you. And sorry, another question based on your earlier comment about the HRIS electronic timesheets. Are we, or have we investigated a corporation-wide enterprise management system? So some integrated system like SAP or others that tie all our financial reporting, HR function together?
So the HRIS module is done by the same vendor as VADM that we currently use. So as far as integration goes, that's fairly clean. Director Jansen may want to add to this answer. May not want to.
Through to Mayor Milligan, Director Burditt's correct. It is simply a module that sits within our enterprise system, which we use for all of our budgeting, maintenance management, payroll, account receivable, for order.
Thank you.
It'd be nice if handed down obligation came with a handed down check. basically.
So that is actually it for my slides, and now I'm gonna turn it over to Director Dan.
Oh, sorry, come around that.
Thank you, Richard. 2015 would mean from the time we had Ghost Rider extension of onwards. What you read?
2015 is when you added Ghost, is when we added Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Is that-
Don't think so. Even the theater, I think we can before 2015.
People. It's fine. Being Mayor and Council and those tuned in online, it's a very long meeting. I'll kick off my presentation of major projects, but while I step through my slides, I'll ask, and the same for my peers here will come up, if you wouldn't mind waiting with questions till the end. I only have a few slides and we'll probably answer your questions as we go through, and then we'll pause and get through that. But first, asset management, this is a new department, so a quick recap for those watching online. Council's aware of this already, but we are a new department. We're part of the organizational restructure to refocus the organization on asset management. Some of our early success, as CIO Bornowski mentioned, was the milestone of an asset management policy, which is really the standard across Canada now for governance and asset management. And we are now part of the leading municipalities in that. So that's great. We've also adopted the organizational objectives to serve to focus our work, and Mayor and Council will be refreshing those in March through their strategic planning session. And then, so we had the milestone of the migration to Office 365, which is essentially the foundation for us to build our modern workplace with our technology. So the really good work in the 6 months that we were a department. We're a small but mighty team of 3. And I've structured my presentation around the projects in the 3 focus areas of the department. So asset management, strategic planning, business analysis, and intelligence and information technology. I'll also speak to economic development as the last slide. And just contrary to Director Burdick's rationale for centralizing asset management in the budget last night, we do more than oversee the purchasing of mice. We optimize systems and integrate decision-making frameworks for investing in powerful.
Director Johnson, that's good to speak over the line. Raise that call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so a quick recap. This is the slide that council saw last year from my team, which was most notably is these are all related projects that are with all of us that have been work on the books last year. There are several carry forwards that you'll see in the slides ahead. Okay, so these are the foundation projects of integrating asset management across our operations, very much focused on future-proofing the organization. So CEO Bornowski already mentioned the asset lifecycle review project. That project will focus on a review and enhancement of our existing framework. Yeah, sorry, asset lifecycle management review. I've chosen some challenging titles here. So that project will review and look at enhancing our existing framework, tools and systems for managing our assets. So currently we have a blend of technology solutions. Not all of them are integrated in our enterprise solution and across others. They're really centralized in specific roles and data and information is really just not accessible to everybody across the organization. And our reporting doesn't quite meet our needs right now. And then, of course, there are a lot of gaps that Director Logan experiences with the facilities simply just not being integrated in an appropriate way. He's really looking and needs some support. So I think I've said before, operations and maintenance really account for 80% of the cost of our assets, so the capital really that we put up front is about 20% of our cost, so pretty important to have credit, to have transparency on the framework for operations and maintenance and to ensure that technology is optimized to support our frontline workers and in tracking their O&M and for managers and directors for managing their programs as well as making decisions on asset renewal. The level of service review, this is a project in collaboration with Asset Management BC. It's an internal review with a series of facilitator workshops and to capture in one place the services we deliver, the current level of service we're delivering, and notes on sustainability gaps and risks. So this will serve as the foundation to support dialogue around prioritizing service reviews, provide baseline content for our service areas for the 2024 website redevelopment project, as well as future community and engagement on level of service. Council strategic planning, I touched on this already, it's planned for March and really an opportunity to council to articulate their vision for the term and beyond, and how staff will operationalize this direction. Strategic asset management plan, this is another internal project. It will be a plan that steps through key strategies for the next few years to find our risk and decision-making frameworks around our asset portfolio and establish some framework for our individual asset management plans across our business units. So this one is also somewhat intertwined with the first project that I mentioned. Okay, so information technology. So this area of our business is not really often talked about as core infrastructure in spite of technology and systems being the backbone of our business practices and our ability to communicate and make informed decisions. IT and systems and processes are what allow us to optimize our level of service across the board. So I'm not going to speak to all of these, and certainly if you have any questions, you can ask me at the end, but I will speak to the public meeting space. So this project, as you're all aware, is to relocate public meetings to the Fernie Senior Center. So that project is underway, and its intent is to meet the accessibility standard for in-person participation and continues to provide an online and in-person opportunity for council, staff, delegation, and the public. And council will be hearing on that project at the committee meeting. Digital transformation roadmap. I want to pick this one out of here. So this is another internal review. We've had an IT roadmap for a few years here, and it's largely been focused on critical hardware infrastructure. And we're starting to be, our foundation is in a much better place, and we're now looking at the information systems that we have and processes that support them. And so developing a roadmap for the next several years to inform our project. So this is really an instrumental project in setting the stage for next several years. So again, I'm not going to speak to all of these, but I will pull out the top one, which is a little bit tied to the transformation roadmap. So this one is a specific internal project where we're working across all departments. Our business analyst is compiling a report on all of our existing information systems. We have several, 20 is, an easy number to grab onto, and then there's several modules within all of those. So we've got a lot. Some are centralized, some are decentralized, some are very much department focused. A lot of them are not integrated, as I mentioned previously. So we're going to be creating that existing conditions and gaps report to then inform internal engagement and put the projects up on that digital transformation roadmap. And then modern workplace. So I spoke already to the foundation that we put in place. So not only are we now a Microsoft compliant licensing organization, we now have the background for a modern workplace to take advantage of several of their business tools. We're working right now on just phase 1 implementation. We're going to be moving from Zoom to Teams for all of our business. day-to-day business. We're piloting several tools in different, at different staff levels, team level scenarios, as well as working on just a baseline SharePoint internal communication site. This is very much linked into corporate services work in records management. So we're maintaining just an initial phase here on our workplace, and we've got some steady foundation on records management. We're working together to this for next year. And then a small but good initiative here, capital project story map. So following the approval of the budget, we're going to be working on putting together a map-based communication tool to share with the public, and it's location-based with information about all our asset-related capital projects around the community. So something on our website. People can drill in, see where the projects are happening, see some photos, see some details about that. And then economic development. So right now I'm the point person for economic development at the city, mostly sitting on that Elk Valley Economic Initiative table. We're a voting member. The city of Fernie is a voting member of that group. That group is currently working on proposing an Elk Valley Economic Development Service Area. That's a service area. They'll be in front of you next month with a pitch reported from the All Elk Valley Chamber of Commerce's requesting a resolution just so they can go to the RD board and enter into the process of a service area for your consideration. So you'll be seeing that next month. And just a quick look ahead, these are some 2024 projects that are listed in the project here, so they're really they lean on projects that we're doing this year. So the citizen engagement framework and the level of service engagement, both of those are really going to take the level of service review projects to the next stage. So we need to be engaging the community on what all of those levels of service are, not necessarily out of the gates asking them where they want to change services, but simply educating them on what those services are, sustainability challenges, etc. And then developing a citizen engagement 24, following some of our work. As you know, we don't have a framework to guide engagement. We did do some background research in 2019 on that, and the organizational readiness was just not there. And so it's back on the books as we put in place the foundation items for that. And then I already mentioned website redevelopment and phone system replacement and project portfolio management. So I'll take any questions. Unless actually you want to speak to these.
Oh, I included these are in your budget binder package, but I included these financial summaries to be just that summary at the end of each director's department. So I don't have a lot to say about them, but if you do have any questions about the numbers on these, please.
I had one on. I don't remember what slide it was now. I can't help you there. With regards to the asset strategy management that you spoke about, council being engaged, I think council strategic priorities. On the sheet, on that particular slide, there were a number of initiatives that were all costed, but that one was not. And I'm just curious if there is a costing. Do we have a number right now for what that strategic planning for asset management council? I didn't see that anywhere.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Isaac. So on that side, I identified a few operating projects. So the level of service review did have a dollar amount to the one-time operating project, and it's and the council strategic planning itself has a budget of 18,000. And the strategic asset management plan, that is an internal project where we're working with across the organization to develop a strategy. So that one is not a council facing document. There will likely be several strategies that we bring forward for you, but a lot of it is operational.
I see. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
I see Mayor Milliken's hand up.
Thank you, Councillor McIsaac. Ms. Jensen, that Elk Valley Economic Development Service Area that we're to expect a presentation on. If we approve that, what is the cost to the city or the individual municipalities for that?
Thank you for the chair to Mayor Milligan. So we're not proposing anything, I'm not proposing any adjustments in the budget right now because the project hasn't fully been scoped, but they will be bringing forward a budget for that project, and it would be, right now that service is being funded through the intercommunity business licensing program, which secures about $18,000 for the group, and they will be looking for an order of magnitude increase and then split across by population or one of the, or by assessment value, whichever the RDK has like both of those options. So the dollar amount would be different, but it's essentially to fund a economic development officer with a very specific set of outcomes and job description. So it would be a salary. If that gives you a better picture.
It does, thank you. And if it was something we'd like to support, it would be nice to know the numbers before we enter into our 2023 budget finalization, I guess.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. The draft estimates that I've seen are looking at, obviously Fernie has a larger population than Alfred, Sparwood in the rural area. So the dollar amount was about a $30,000 contribution from the city of Fernie. Right now we contribute around $9,000 in community business licensing. Part of their bid will include a review of business licensing fees across the valley, which are all flat rate at $100 right now. And so they will be looking at options for consideration. So not necessarily seeking taxation increases, but that'll give you a bit of the ballpark of what the number is that they're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any further questions on the? No. All right, well, thank you very much.
We go.
Mayor and council, I'll present on behalf of planning tonight. We have a set of ill directors and managers who are unable to be with us and are not doing so well. So I'm handling the presentation for tonight. I'll do my best to answer your questions and comments with this draft presentation. The planning department does a lot of work on interdepartmental support projects or collaborative projects where they are working across the organization with their colleagues. Examples here will be the new protected services or firewall project, parks and recreation master planning, parks and facilities capital projects, work on or providing planning supports for items like the CNL right of way, lagoons, Bull Creek flood modeling. There are a few that are very fee and revenue focused. That's our development fees and charges bylaw update. So that's an update to the actual individual charges for development fees or for development, and then development cost charges. And that is the project that was mentioned earlier, where we look at the infrastructure that we need in the future for the general betterment of the municipality and what contribution new development should make to that, so that we can build the new infrastructure that is meant to be a betterment for the community, or replace and rehabilitate critical infrastructure. Also, there's a large subdivision and development servicing bylaw update that they will be contributing to, but is not necessarily owned by the planning department. They do have some very major projects coming up in 2023. Number one on the list is the official community plan update. That is a long and significant process. Those are typically year-long or multi-year processes to review and update an official community plan, but that does describe and create policy language around the community's long-term vision, and really create the framework for the what gets built where of the planning world. There are a lot of optional elements in official community plans, everything from cultural priorities to food security that have previously been included in Fernie's OCP, and planning will be speaking more to that as well on the at this month's committee of the whole with a presentation dialogue with council on the OCP. The Affordable Housing Action Strategy was last created in 2017. There is a community dialogue table happening with groups concerned about housing affordability and shelter space currently. The City of Fernie Planning Department is working to present actions taken from the last housing action strategy to that committee and some of the work that they may, or that table, and some of the work they may want to continue to extend. And we have included an affordable housing action strategy in the work plan for the coming year so that we can get tangible, specific actions to take to start to impact housing affordability within the community. The Development Approval Process Enhancement Project, sometimes called the LGDAP, sometimes called DAPR. Essentially, it is the process enhancement project that was funded by grant. It's underway. Engagement with the development community, council, staff, and the broader community is coming up in the near future. That's a very significant project. That will also create a needs analysis for permit intake and tracking software to modernize the way we receive applications and manage the workflow. And that then creates the opportunity for Ms. Jansen and department to create an RFP that meets our actual needs analysis. So that's one of the important deliverables out of that project is having your needs analysis market for the right solution. We have some internal projects in the work plan that I think are quite important. The building bylaw, this is going to provide some clarity to the building community and the building officials that work for the city of community, for the city, to ensure that they're reviewing complete applications and able to reference an up-to-date and modern bylaw in the application of their work. It does also incorporate step code and other code changes to make sure that we're in compliance with what we should be provincially. The municipal lands inventory requires an update. We're going to look at the encumbrances, challenges, and opportunities for our municipal lands inventory so that council can have a view of the lands that we own and what may be available, what may not be available, or how to optimize those to meet the challenges today and tomorrow. And short-term rental enforcement implementation. So you saw in an earlier slide there, tracking the number of business licenses for short-term rentals in and around Fernie. And the enforcement program needs to be developed so that we can ensure there is appropriate management to make sure we have healthy long-term rental stock as well as short-term rentals as a mix in our visitor offer. In terms of bylaw enforcement and business licensing, backyard hen zoning and the animal responsibility bylaw and MTI bylaw, those are being updated currently. The community standards bylaw enforcement and implementation, you've seen some of that as we start to enforce our community standards or unsightly premises bylaw. Business licensing and regulation, our fees do need a review to ensure that business license fees are more appropriate. That is tied to the Elk Valley Economic Initiative's work and should be aligned with it. Further, we are looking forward to advancing what we had wanted to previously, which is a mobile vending update. Clarify for mobile vendors where we can provide alternative or additional locations. There's a noise bylaw update that requires modernization to ensure that we have livability in our neighborhoods. We have had some issues with an outdated bylaw that allows noise almost all of the time, impacting livability. The plastics bylaw, as council will know, under the leadership of the federal government, we are planning on supporting that and doing the communication with residents and business owners on the incoming plastics restrictions. rather than developing our own independent bylaw as a first step. And then feline management, or including cats, in the animal responsibility bylaw. In terms of overall budgets, we have budgeted in 2022 for Park and Rec Master Plan, the official, and carried that forward into 23, the official community plan updated in 23, and the affordable housing action strategy, as well as major projects all in planning. There is a view that these can be integrated in some way. The challenge currently is developing a good scope of work and good timing for these projects so that you are not waiting years for an affordable housing strategy where one might be developed more nimbly and then appended to an official community plan, if that's a more appropriate solution. So there's some scoping work to be done, and obviously the orientation and workshop with council to really help define what that OCD is, and then future conversations so you can set direction and make determinations about where you need to go. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, my best to answer them.
That's perfect. Thank you. I was just wondering, 3 slides before, like, is there any place where we can actually see like what the completion rate of many of these projects at this time? Yeah. Like this.
We can bring forward, so I can provide you a verbal snapshot right now, and then yes, we can start to track. We're starting to look at our major projects dashboard and bringing those together for all the departments and how we report on them. There isn't currently a great centralized dashboard that I can provide you that has completion rates or process tracking through all of them. Where we are on official community plan is starting to work on the scope of work and preparing for the workshop with council. The affordable housing action strategy is not started. Development approval process enhancement project is approximately 10% underway, I would say, with the background research having been done by our consultants, preparing for community engagement and stakeholder engagement, the development and building community. And then there's work to be done on our needs analysis and reporting back over the summer. Our target is August as a completion date for that project, we believe. Permit tracking software is deliverable from that project, so not started. The building bylaw was substantially redeveloped a number of years ago. Public consultation hit the brakes when the pandemic started, and now there's capacity to pick that back up. So there's a substantial amount of work done, but I'm not confident enough to say how much longer that's going to take or what further consultation with the sector is required on it. We do have a lands inventory. It will require likely a couple of months of work on those properties to understand and update their status. Short-term rental enforcement implementation is going to be ongoing over the next coming years. And I would anticipate this year, council is going to, with the bylaw enforcement report, have the opportunity to discuss what priority SDR enforcement has versus the other bylaw enforcement challenges in the community. And as that relates to the bylaw enforcement official or the resources we have to deliver those properties or deliver those services. In terms of the actual bylaw enforcement and business licensing bylaw, most of these are very well underway. The business licensing and regulation fees is a significant undertaking, and there will need to be significant conversation in the community about that. Those aren't projects to be taken lightly because they directly impact the costs that you drive as a municipality towards your business. But absolutely, we are considering how to best bring our major project list by department together in a dashboard that I can use to make sure that the directors are reporting through myself and council more regularly on process on this project. It just has not been developed yet.
Thank you. Would you mind returning back? I think it was maybe your first slide. Okay, let's stop here. Thank you. My question, I think, is broader and probably pertains more to you, Mr. Bornesi, than specifically to anyone in the planning department, and that is there's a number of really big projects in this department. The DCC bylaw alone is huge. Subdivision servicing have been ongoing for probably years now in the making. The affordable housing is a whole elephant unto itself, and we have lands inventory, short-term rental, business fee updates, all et cetera, et cetera. On top of the planning department's work in doing actual subdivision work and dealing with new development projects coming forward and so on. Do we have capacity in the department for all those things within the kinds of timescales that we're looking at? And if not, are we budgeting to like bolster that?
The council, I'm concerned about the capacity of the planning department. We are seeing increasingly complex and increasingly multifamily development interest in the community. That brings a different set of challenges. We have been very fortunate to have a really strong engineering team who support planning in reviewing all of those. But absolutely, I'm concerned about the capacity of the department. One of the initiatives that we are initiating this year, based on Mr. Hauser's successful operator and training program, the bylaw official or a building official and training program, so that an individual or internal staff are interested in potentially developing their careers into becoming building officials, can find some release time from their current positions to work under the tutelage of our 2 building officials. We are really fortunate as a city to have those 2 building officials, but having continuity of service and having some succession planning is always a very good thing, especially with what we know about the availability of building officials as you know, seasoned experts in their field in British Columbia. It's a challenging landscape. The subdivision servicing bylaw project is actually primarily owned by engineering in engineering public works, but will require support from the planning department. And they are going to have to really focus on compartmentalizing the policy planning, the longer range planning projects. They are large and there are many of them, to keep those moving forward and deliver them. It is, however, why I note some of these projects are very long term. An official community plan is not a 6-month or 8-month project. Typically, that's a multi-year project. And typically your consultant is taking away material to research for a number of months before coming back and consulting with council and staff and doing community consultation and then developing language for periods of months. Those are long stretches. And so as that moves along, they're not all day, every day actively working on that kind of a project.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long rambly answer to say I share some concern. I share some concerns, but I am optimistic that in looking at an OCP and how the Parks and Rec Master Plan and the affordable housing strategy can dovetail with it, we can find some efficiencies or some economies of scale by integrating some of the work.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Please.
To Councilor McIsaac's point here, like if indeed you have limited resources and you were to drop a few initiatives here, which ones would it be?
I would want to really lean on my director to answer that question. I would likely look at holding the affordable housing strategy until 2024 to initiate, because we have good action in the community with the dialogue table. And what we can do is look to our 2017 strategy, which is not entirely out of date, and some of the very practical recommendations that remain in it, to continue taking meaningful action on housing and affordability. And we are significantly overhauling our processes that should speed up market-driven solutions, which are just the market development of housing in the community. We are seeing a significant uptake in multifamily applications and permits and inquiries and interest in large land holdings. And I do believe there will be just a strong acceleration of multifamily units coming on the market naturally. But absolutely, those are, I think that's probably one of the strategies that I would hold until 2024. And would need to confirm that with Mr. Lennox. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Chuse.
Through the chair and staff, where are we currently with the step code rollout? Are we, and when does that rollout finish?
That's a question I'm going to have to bring back an answer from our planning team for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There is a clicker, there you go. Oh, and I will share the screen properly, apologies. Keep moving on. Should work for you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Isaac, Mayor and Council. I'm just gonna point out a few highlighted projects for 23 and then one major project. We continue to operate from our temporary location and also continuing to support planning and engineering with the needs assessment for our new facility. This year, we're also going to complete and update our operational guidelines. A few years back, the province legislated minimum training standard in a document called the BC Playbook. In 2019, we started the coursework to get this, to get compliance. And really proud of my staff who are working really hard to get these designations. So part of that is all the captains and the chiefs trained to the NFPA 1021 Officer 2 certification or designation, which myself and the two captains will be completed in April of this year. All the lieutenants and career firefighters to NFPA 1021 Officer 1 certification. 4 of which will be certified in 23, and 2 are starting the coursework this year. We're also initiating an in-house NFPA 1001 training program for the auxiliary firefighters, which is really exciting. We have to restart our ice rescue certification this year. And then emergency management training is continuing on for all city staff, and that will continue on through the year. For the next few months, we'll be overseeing the Richmond Wildfire Fuel Mitigation Project. We'll be hosting an open house information session tomorrow at the Senior Center from 7 till 9. So if you have any interest in what's going on up there, basically behind the cemetery, above the cemetery and along Ridgemont Crescent, behind the homes there.
Can't believe you didn't ask if anyone had a burning desire to.
Good start.
We're gonna be updating our emergency management plans. They're all fairly new, but there are some that our core one need to sort of update. We're planning a city staff emergency management tabletop in the fall. So that's an exciting venture. A big capital project this year is specing a new ladder truck. As I pointed out at council orientation, FUS or the fire underwriter study only allow frontline fire trucks to be in service for 20 years. In 2019, we applied for and were granted a 5-year extension to 2024, which is common in our industry. With supply issues and demand, what used to take 12 to 18 months from RFP to delivery of the fire truck is now 30 to 35 months. So I've been working with the underwriters to see if we can get an extension to that 35-month mark, and I've applied for an extension to 2026. As they understand the current predicament fire departments are in right now. With the application, we have had to provide service records over the last few years, like our annual pump testing, aerial ladder testing, and unobstructed tests, and all our maintenance records, which are all in really good orders. The current 1999 ladder truck is in great shape, and I'm confident that the extension will be granted. Not only do we have to wait a long time for the build, these trucks, the crystal ball to predict how long or how much they cost. The pricing was generally 4 to 5% per year. In 21 alone, it jumped 21%. So a ladder truck that was 1.5 million jumped to 1.85 million. And is now unfortunately north of 2 million.
If I may, I think that's unfortunately, a wonderful example of something that we see over and over again. It's great to get an extension and not have to move on something so quickly, but it doesn't save you money. Right? It just ends up costing us more by putting it down the road to act on something that we know we're going to use. I'm not talking specific, like, this is a specific example, but it's a general concern.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the two avenues I'm working on right now is either purchase a Pierce Ascendant 110 platform, which is sort of exactly what we need. It's a demo ladder truck that's going to be ready in July of 24. Its price is 1.9 million. So the deposit on that would have to come in 23, which would be 190,000 with 10%. Full payment of the remainder of that 1.7 would be in 24 when we get the truck. The RP for a built to order ladder truck, we need the required extension from Plus, which we should know in a few weeks. Price approximately 2.25 if we order sort of by May. With a $225,000 deposit in 23. The bonus on that is that the full payment of remainder of the 2 million basically in 2026 when it is delivered. The ask budget wise then is obviously 190,000 to 225,000 in 2023. So I think.
Yeah, question for you before, yeah, and that is the option number one, the Pierce Ascendant, is that a brand new truck? Yeah. Okay, so it would come with a 20-year.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Through the Bloomer, to Chief Morgan. Do you have a preference? Is there one that is going to better serve the community over the longer term than the other of those two options?
Interesting. So there's a few things that I would probably add to that truck. If I was to spec it out myself. The one nice thing about this particular truck is that it is single axle. Meaning you'd only need to have a class 5 to drive it and not a class 3, and so that we can utilize, you know, auxiliary staff a lot to drive them and so on. It is a very large ladder, 110-foot ladder is really good, and the other bonus on this is it's a platform which allows firefighters to get out on a platform and do work out as opposed to just on the end of a ladder. Honestly, if I was to have full reign and freedom to do what I wanted, I would probably build to order. Personally.
Mr. Barnett.
Thank you. Mayor and Councilor McKay made a good point that costs do lose predictability through times of really strange challenges like we've had. One important consideration is purchasing a truck delivered in 2024, if we are able to extend in 2026, means that those funds aren't sitting in an account earning us interest for 2 years. And it means that that vehicle will have to be replaced 2 years earlier than the next vehicle. So there are actually life extensions and savings on the other end, as well as an opportunity to earn some more interest to offset the cost overall with option 2. Meaning that before council is making a decision on this, you will require a more comprehensive report. So we aren't looking within this process to try to support you or get you to jump off a bridge without enough information. I realize you may not believe that. You may not have thought that we were trying to get you to make a $2 million discussion based on some bullets, but I just wanted to assure you that.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Councilor Chief.
Through the chair to staff, thank you, that actually answered one of my questions quite well. My second question here is, were we to have any sort of delay or screw up either on our end or on somebody else's, and then what happens if we wind up with a not certified truck for some period of time until the new arrives?
Yeah, so our rating would probably go down, first of all. So whatever rating we're at, would probably go down, but, you know, talking to the guy I deal with at Bus, it's not, I really don't think it's gonna be an issue, but yeah, it would definitely be considered.
Thank you.
Councilor Nixon?
Thank you, Councilor Isaac. Just curious, what happened to the old truck? Did you get a trade-in or what goes on there?
Well, sadly, because no one else wants to put a 25-year-old, 27-year-old truck in their fleet when it's not first line, they generally get sold to like arborists and for next to nothing, $20,000 to $50,000. Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor Milligan, you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Councillor McIsaac. Chief Morgan, it's just for clarification, the down payment on the built to order truck guarantees the purchase price when we take delivery. Is that correct?
That is, Deputy to Mayor, yeah, that is correct. If we, so it's for sale right now and the first person to buy it buys it. And so he's confirmed with me that if we put the down payment in, it's locked in at 1.9.
No,
Is that
sorry,
what
I was asking about the other one, the built to order one. If
Yeah, that's a negotiation you do after you've do the RFP, and in the RFP, you can say it's gotta be locked. The price is gonna be locked once. And so a lot of companies are starting to go, well, we can't guarantee that. And talking to other chiefs, they just say, well, you have to, or we don't give you the agreement.
so, there is some risk in the negotiation for the built to order fire truck.
If you don't lock it in, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Chair McIsaac. And the current testing, and I know you would never put your troops at risk, but the non-destructive testing and the other testing of the current equipment, you're quite comfortable with the extension.
It's 100%. So we have a company called Highworks that comes in, we pay about $2,500 a year. It does a complete overhaul on the ground ladders and the aerial itself. And yeah, I'm very confident he's certified. And then also pump testing gets done by AB Fire Tech out of Alberta. And they do a great job, and everything's been working well. So all the service records and everything have gone to FUS. And everything I've read in the last 3 years, what I have to give, has all been really good. So I'm 100% confident in the matter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for Mr. Bernowski. Do we know if we have a rough guesstimate as to when this particular subject matter is going to come back to council so that we can actually have a discussion about jumping off the $2 million bridge?
We haven't pegged it, but Morgan, when do you need to know by? You will need to be making a decision around the same time as we're finalizing the budget.
Yeah. So sometime in the next couple of months. Yeah. Thank you. I don't think that us will be too impressed with us not going ahead and doing the RFP and deciding prolonging that 30 to 35 months. So we kind of need to get it done or made clear that we've ordered a truck.
Understood. Is there any risk or anything saying that we don't go with RFP right now and do what we get and then make the decision?
We definitely could do that. Yeah. We'll probably lose the tier spot. But yeah, we could definitely do that. And yeah, we're not going to separate them.
Well, where's that? Quick follow-up, please. What do you mean by route or what they do. When you say we're probably gonna, we would lose the piers as a result. I guess, what's the mechanism that causes that? Just,
All of somebody just because of demand right now.
Okay.
Demand is huge. So, like a fire department that all of a sudden wants like a truck right now and just buy it. It's ready to go.
thank you.
I wanted to, sorry. I just wanted to add my, more else you covered a lot of it. But my thoughts on that truck, I pointed out the changes in your capital sheet earlier. And I put option 2 in the capital sheet for now, not so much as a recommendation, but because. I think Chief and I kind of agree that we like that option the best, mainly because, well, there's several reasons, but. One. You know, if we have to spend 1.7 next year versus 2.025 3 years from now, at today's interest rate, it's not actually that big of a difference in money. 2, we get to use our current truck for a couple more years, which is good because it's functioning totally fine. 3, we save the next generation this problem a couple of years, when the truck could cost, 8 million or whatever it'll be. And then 3, like as Mayor Milligan said, there is some risk to the second option, but we also felt like there was a bit of risk to the first option because it feels like we would have to act on it before budget is adopted. And that to me feels rushy and so I just wanted to add those thoughts to this whole eventual decision that will come. Thank you.
You mayor, deputy mayor, and council. What are you doing on that?
I will, yeah, there's one more, pardon me.
So I think we have 5 slides. Say the hardest one for Manager Bill to explain. So there's a couple themes here, administrative, operational improvements, asset replacement, safety, and efficiency. So I included this slide, just a quick recap from last year. And to point out that we do have some ongoing projects as other departments do. Typically around this time of year, it's a bit of a lull because we're waiting for the budget to be approved at the end of the first quarter. So some of these projects are almost planned to be done at this time of year, especially the procurement of, say, the cemetery vault, the wood chip and mineral. The aquatic facility upgrade, you'll see in a further slide, but that for the slide tower, where we've been actively working on replacing, some of the budget was carried over from that. Let's get into it.
Okay. Recreation and administration operational, what we're working on is administration improvements. The rec administrator position was recently created to help improve staff capacity, support the increased demand for rec services. Updating our fees and charges bylaw to reflect the services we provide and support the long-term potential sustainability. I skipped over the updating systems and procedures. That's a big one we've been working on, and that will help us to improve our operational efficiencies. We're updating the website and ActiveNet, which is our online recreation software we use to provide clear and consistent communication to the community. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan was last updated in 2013. So 10 years ago, a lot changes in 10 years, and an important planning tool for understanding what the community wants and how to meet the community's needs. The School District 5 Joint Use Agreement, that one is important for understanding and providing clarity on how what resources we share. For the community special events and resource tracking, with the special event application form, this form is being developed to streamline the service delivery. We get a lot of requests for special events in the community. City resource tracking helps to ensure equipment and service resource availability. The RMI, the Resort Municipality Initiative Reporting and Event Strategy with Fernie, is important to provide is important information to provide process for fund allocation, as well as measuring the impact that we. Fund one we're looking at is summer camps. Fernie, there is childcare. Like childcare in Fernie, so being able to provide the service to working parents in the summer. Will help provide affordable childcare as well as additional recreation opportunities for youth. We've also applied for a kind of summer jobs grant, so that will help support this program and reduce costs. Thank you.
So capital projects and facilities, there's a few in the arena, some asset replacement, hot water tank. We had a failure last year, we budgeted for replacement this year just to maintain existing service level. Our Freon plant relief valves were mandated by technical safety PC to replace those every 5 years. Our Freon plant is 5 years old this year. Concession equipment in the arena, working with the Alcoholic Dolphin to create consistent service level in the concession, so some investment in some proper equipment for them to use while running concession is planned. In the aquatic center, we're continuing upgrading that facility. Like I mentioned earlier, the slide tower carry forward $43,000. We're getting closer to nailing down the date, so hopefully we'll be sliding down there soon. Perimeter security cameras, it's already been prompted from the ongoing vandalism that's happened over various years. So we're looking to use our in-house electrician to install some additional security cameras around the perimeter. Stereo equipment, pretty straightforward, just replacing original equipment to work with newer devices and that sort of thing. Improving service delivery, making it easier for conducting classes on deck and that sort of thing. There's also a safety component to that too. In the event of emergency, we'll be able to broadcast through the whole building using the stereo equipment. Exterior lighting, stated on the outside of the facility, also to improve sort of the nighttime lighting situation to scare the bad apples out of the corners of the building and hiding places. The art station through replacement line, that's a carryover project where we ran out of budget to replace that troublesome sewer line in the basement. And the majority of the funds were used to do the accessible washrooms upstairs in the art station. Much needed fire escape in City Hall for egress to the second floor. We're replacing some LED light bulbs that are failing prematurely in the library, and we're just gonna do them all in one shot. And then ongoing furnace replacement of the 6 furnaces in there. We're trying to do 1 every year. In parks, Rotary Park fence, this was carryover. We under budgeted, working with contractors and getting some refined pricing. It's coming in a lot higher than expected. Hoping to have the highway chip in for that fence with the damage over the years from the windrow snow removal or from the highway. Tennis court roof blocker, just kind of future proofing ourselves to move away from doing tennis court repairs every couple of years from the cracking of the trees around the perimeter. There's a product that was suggested by our tennis club that we're looking at purchasing, where we actually dig in a roof area around the perimeter and stop roots from infiltrating the playing surface and creating tripping hazards and such. The wood chipper mammoth is carried forward, like I mentioned before. Instead of trucking all of our wood debris to Sparwood and paying a dumping fee, we want to purchase a wood chipper and use it in-house to chip up our wood debris during windfalls and that type of things in the parks and place them somewhere that makes sense and not reduce the trucking fee. The mammoth purchase is important for safety to access roof. It's been sort of endorsed by our safety department. Columbarium purchase is another carry forward project. We're running out of space in our existing columbariums, so we need to purchase another one. And ongoing amenity replacements and improvements around parks for the receptacles, benches, and tables where we're just replacing older infrastructure. There are my slide. A few of the projects are renewal of the dirt dump. With the FTA, we have a partnering agreement with them for service at that property.
Part of that was to purchase some bleachers that could remain there for events and be shuffled around the property if needed. One example is Wham Bam, the seating for Wham Bam's stand only, really. So we're looking at providing a bit of a spectator area there. Outdoor washrooms, this was a project using RMI funds to basically install a plug and play self-cleaning washroom facility there. That could be relocated to another location if we did do an addition down the road where we had exterior washrooms with the aquatic center facility. Our annual trail renewal program, the FTA and other groups to maintain trails around city and outside city limits. Our winter trail grooming collaborative led by Tourism Fernie, lots of stakeholders in that to improve accessibility and our trail network in the winter time. And then the winter grooming for the city of Fernie trails on the dike and in our parks. And the ambassador program that is offered through the Chamber Visitor Information Center. And that's it for our slide. Any questions? You see.
Oh, there we go, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Logan. Just wondering about the purchase of a wood chipper and the manpower costs. Presumably, there's been a cost benefit analysis in terms of the cost of hauling that stuff to Sparwood now. So is it, how do those costs compare?
I don't have the numbers on me right now. Berkshire, Mr. Osler and the Public Works Department can agree that the cost of driving tandem trucks to Sparwood and back, the manpower for loading the trees and debris in those trucks. Also, I see some use there from the fire department, Fire Smart Community, where they create piles of wood debris and then the city comes and picks them up and drives them to Sparwood. Not sure the dumping fee, I think is a set fee for wood debris that.
Yeah, through the chair, the mayor. Clean wood they used to take for free. That has been more troublesome lately. They won't take stumps. They won't take any contaminated wood, types of thing. But if you bring a dirty truck to Sparwood, it's about $2,000 a shot. Just to drop it off, not including wearing front trucks and fuel costs, etc. So when we have an event in James White Park, like we've had in past years, where significant trees are down. We're separating the wood, trying to get rid of it as much as we can for free, but that's becoming harder and harder.
Thank you, Director Hauser. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a business case prepared where I could share those numbers, but that's something I could bring back if your worship is interested.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see a high level cost comparison of the two, if that's not too much trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, worship. Just a follow-up question to, if you pronounce your, anyone knows that, you did, the acquisition request methodology like economic model when you purchase that equipment, like rigorous cost benefit analysis, like that's.
More so for fleet replacement.
Yeah.
But not a rigorous and full model for new equipment. And as Jansen will probably echo, even when we've looked at facilities that have been purchased or new facilities that are being constructed, there hasn't typically been a really good model for the asset life cycle cost for maintenance and replacement and full life cycle costing. So no, not entirely.
To build on that, we did, this was the first year that we created a new capital request form for new capital projects, similar to the AR that you're referring to. But we don't it's a work in progress, and we haven't built in like a cost benefit analysis to all of them, yet. So that was a new thing for this year's budget to help us. To help us pick which projects we wanted to recommend, and, but the main focus was just tying them into our strategic objectives more so than doing that cost benefit analysis that you would be used to it, with your AR.
Thank you, Councilor McIsaac. Sorry, Director Logan, you're sitting down again. I'm just curious about the bathrooms. Are they gonna be year round or are they just sort of summer use or, yeah, year round?
Yeah, Mr. Warnock might have more information, but as far as I'm aware, they're self-cleaning, all, they're heated, yeah, so they would be available for use all year round, and hopefully we find a place that could be shared with the skate park and the aquatic center facility, because right now it's serviced through porta potties, which are costly to maintain, and the level of service is not ideal. Obviously activities around the outside of the aquatic center are outside the aquatic center hours sometimes.
If I may, that costing and the project that is based off of is a outdoor modular washroom that was purchased by another RMI community and placed, and it requires a pad and electrical and water and wastewater and internet. And they found it successful, and so it's reasonably good costing, but we would be going to market to see what product came forward and making a recommendation on award based on what the responses were.
Thank you. Oh, maybe one other thing too.
Were you gonna outlook the internet? Cause I didn't.
I just want to say thanks for looking at the camera for the aquatics.
Oh, please.
I do have a follow-up question on that. I know this is not financial, but I remember us talking about this camera situation back a couple of months ago. And you had said something about privacy laws and things like that. Did we overcome that?
I came through the council. It's a very good question. Earlier today, Mr. Logan completed most of the privacy impact analysis for our security system that we are implementing at City Hall. That same privacy impact assessment will need to be done for any time we're gathering private information, but having gone through it, it's largely a replication of what we went through there. There's going to be a lot of new work, but yeah, it's just hurdles and administrative work and time. Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's not possible, it just means that there's an extra burden on local government in terms of how we govern protection of privacy.
Good, right. Well, thank you, Director Logan. I think everyone will take a 10-minute break to refresh water and all that stuff before we continue on, if that's okay. Virtual gavel.
Mid-road.
It's just making it.
Live stream.
I believe so.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to that short break, and I'm not sure who's on deck. Earlier.
These things, presentation, training, learning. Your clicker, now we're good.
Good evening, council, mayor and chair. I'm here, the team behind me, Justin Eichler, the director of Community Public Works. I have kind of the engineering, the group here. Works, so. We have approved our projects by strategic goals. We have quite a few slides, mostly capital, a few operating projects in there for your knowledge. So we're gonna jump back and forth as we progress through and answer your questions hopefully at the end. We will see how it goes. First off, we have Fernie.
So we'll start with the Ferry Creek source, the majority of this project being a carryover with an additional contribution this year. This project includes 5 components that aim to address known risks at our drinking water system and prepare us for strong decision making as we navigate environmental and regulatory changes. So I'll just briefly review them because the scope has altered a bit since you would have seen this project in the last round of the capital budget. We will continue the hydrometric monitoring program that we started last year. We had some trouble procuring the weather station and hydrometric stations for Ferry Creek, so we'll get those installed and begin the data collection to monitor that total volume of water coming from Ferry Creek to inform the long-term viability of the source. We will complete the design of the UV treatment system, and the reminder that was identified in that Ferry Creek source to tap study that as a current deficiency to the system, the provincial regulatory requirements are 2-step disinfection, and we currently have 1-step disinfection with fluoridation. So this is the addition of ultraviolet to meet that. And the scope is for the detailed design of that. So again, getting better information to inform budgeting for future years for paying for the installation of that.
Quick question while we're on the topic of water source and disinfection. Are we still using the chlorine gas system? We have switched to the liquid.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
The additional regulatory requirement for filtration, we are still collecting data and are pursuing an application for filtration exemption. So these costs cover the engineering associated with that as well. The 4th component is engineering services to continue the reservoir structural assessment and rehabilitation program. So we started this last year and we completed an external inspection that identified the need for action to remediate at our Ferry Creek Reservoir. And now we're moving into detailed design of what that rehabilitation will look like, which we expect will include things like crack repair and installation of membrane to extend the life of our reservoir. That's the next line on this slide. You'll see is the actual capital costs or budget to try to procure this remediation. So I think this project is a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier in terms of, I don't remember what you called them, boogeymen in the closet type of projects that we aren't happy to see in terms of this asset is not at the end of its life cycle, and this is more extensive maintenance than certainly planned for based on the age of this. But just a little bit more information to support this major investment in structural remediation is the inspection that was completed did identify the reservoir roof slab, the valve chamber roof slab, and the perimeter walls. So all the components of this structure as being fair to poor, which means based on the consultant's ranking, that the deficiencies are affecting performance and are of high severity and may include items like leaking cracks and joint causing failure. And the structural engineers did recommend the rehabilitation is required in the short term to maintain operation. So within the engineering being captured in that first budget, and then the second budget being for the procurement of the services, the engineering will include further inspection, a full structure check and remodel, and these detailed assessment against the code requirements and HVAC review. So there's still quite a bit of ongoing engineering underway this winter to support procuring the services to remediate or rehabilitate the. And the exposed lines, the utility lines on Coal Creek, is another unforeseen project. Water and sewer main crossings at Coal Creek at near the Pine Avenue Bridge are closed based on inspection from spring 2022. So we think in fact the damage was done in the atmospheric river event of 2021, and their concrete reinforcement was damaged. And so this budget includes engineering assessment and recommendations to undertake an immediate repair and environmental permitting for that immediate repair. And also the potential for development, acknowledging that we might not be able to implement a longer term solution right away. We would like to address this risk prior to leaving it exposed more. So 50,000 of that 69 is carried in an effort to hopefully implement some immediate action. That's what I realized. What we're calling 2023 roads project doesn't have a very flashy name yet. The engineering team performed an analysis of the roadway network to come up with a prioritized list of roads within the city of Fernie for full rehab in 2023. One of the key parts of this analysis was finding roads that are in poor condition and that require rehabilitation, but do not have poor condition utilities underneath of them. Because we are utilizing the available water and sewer reserve contributions for funding other important maintenance on the assets that you're seeing in this project, as opposed to the linear replacement of aging water and sewer mains under the road. So we do have several of those projects. The map, all the blue lines there were what appeared as the top project for roads projects without significant utility requirements. But eventually we would run out of those types of projects and need to fund the rehabilitation of the water and sewer under the road at the same time as the road. Has more we've done in historic roads projects.
And if I might ask that, I know historically the priority has been to tackle those where the utilities underneath the road are going to be upgraded simultaneously, and that the grouping of that work being split crossing, going, tearing up a road and putting utility and then building a new road and so on. So in this case, what I think I hear you saying is, in an effort to reduce that cost, that then we're not going to do both the utility work and the road work. We're going to pick roads that utilities underneath that road right now, we're not anticipating having to do any repair or replacement on for quite some time.
Correct.
That's what we're gonna do, okay. Thank you. That's what I thought.
Their lifespan of the utilities is longer than the lifespan of the road that we're planning to build on top of it.
Right, and even, and yet the road still needs replacement.
Yes.
Okay,
And so the prioritization was largely based on our 2019 IICP Integrated Infrastructure Capital Plan, which did include that large assessment of age, condition, and risk associated with each of the assets. So that's all coming to the top and being considered from our IICP. And then we also got input from our public works team and other maintenance efforts and what operational impacts these roads have. And so the recommended project for this year is to rehabilitate the roadways of 9th Street and 11th Street from 7th Avenue to 9th Avenue in the annex. And we are proposing to improve the cross sections to reflect what's recommended in our newly adopted active transportation master plan, so that a 9-meter wide asphalt surface with sidewalk and curbing gutters. But we have not part of the project, so it will need to progress to detailed design to make sure that.
all right, maybe this one, follow up on that, is that at a sufficient level that will have competitive opportunities for RFP for that replacement? I think it's not a very big number. Are we gonna be able to?
Yes. Bidders, we typically bid on this type of project, and it actually is a fair, although our other projects have a bigger total value in past years, like you outlined, a lot of that money was for the deep, so this is the. I think that, yeah, the worthwhile still amount of asphalt and concrete work done, so.
Okay, thank you.
The next one here is the street illumination review, street light illumination review. So the majority of the city Fernie street lights are mounted on BC Hydro utility poles, as you're aware, and therefore they're owned and operated by BC Hydro. Recently, BC Hydro has replaced a large portion or all of their previous generation HPS lights with LED luminaire. And due to the brighter light provided by the LED luminaires, there has been concern raised as whether the street illumination levels are exceeding required levels and potentially, creating excessive lighting pollution. As a side note, it should be noted that the city is also going to be required to meet the same federal obligations that BC Hydro was targeting meeting by replacing these bulbs by 2025. So the rest of our streetlights will also have to be converted to LEDs. So through this project, we're seeking guidance from qualified professionals experienced in street lighting design to compare the street lighting illumination levels with recognized industry standards to determine whether illumination level adjustments are warranted and help guide us in better understanding the level of service we're providing street lighting before we make decisions about changing them widely. And then finally, on this slide is the Mount View Phase 1 tie-in, we're calling it. And so in 2020, you'll be familiar with, we did the Mount View Phase 1 dike extension with $750,000 of grant funding, but unfortunately, the grant funding didn't end up being quite enough to complete the tie-in of that dike to high ground. So the dike was terminated approximately 60 meters before the tie into high ground. But we have already completed the detailed design for that dike section, as well as submitted the required permit applications, which is a fair amount of work. So there's been work put into that, and we'd really like to button up this portion of dike that we have been heavily invested in already by grant funding. So we're proposing that as a capital project. And then the reason the cost is quite high for the dike is that also just adjacent to this, we're combining it with a Mount McLean culvert upgrade, and that culvert under Mount McLean is where Castle Creek outlets to the Elk River essentially, and so it is undersized, and in events such as the November 2021 flood, we did see significant localized flooding because the culvert was undersized, so that is supposed to be upsized as part of the project. Capital placement, here, doing water replacement. This is a pretty critical part of sewage treatment. We are currently larger lagoon project. Replacement. We have the backflow we want to replace. The grader I'm looking into possibly replacing that with front plows, maybe. We'll see. Yep.
Managers, Sandra, do you mind speaking a bit louder, please?
Sure. We have 6.
What, can you expand a bit more on the information surrounding cancellation of the modular shed?
Just to recap for those that weren't here, we priced out with floor 2 a modular shed. that could be encompassing those blowers to protect them from the elements, which we were told was reducing their lifespan. So that was fine. After we ordered the modular bed, we had 2 blower blocks cracked. And the supplier, when they came and installed blower number 2, started looking into it, and the concern was that they were probably cracking because of thermal shock from the outside to the inside of the blower block. But then the idea came up that the headers coming out of these blowers have quite a bit of residual heat from the pressure and the pumping. Maybe we could use that to heat the building. And that would be like a passive heat source, which would be great. But in the summer, because it gets hot and those things can overheat and shut down, now we have to look at some sort of ventilation. And so the project kind of still creeped on us. And we were like, you know what, we're not doing the right thing. Put the money back in. We're looking at this big lagoon project now. Let's just put that in as an item on that. And we may have to do mechanical design on that building to accommodate. Any other questions before we carry on? Before we go, I just wanted to touch on quickly the chlorine gas question, just for a bit more knowledge. I think the intent is to do the council tour in the spring, which is good because we can go all the way up to the catchment once the avalanches have slid. But to switch from gas to liquid is not as simple as it seems. We have roughly like a 10 by 10 room for chlorine gas that can hold 9 balls and get us through the winter without flopping, which is great. But if we want to go to gas, for example, we have our backup source has like a 20 by 30 chlorine, liquid chlorine room built for spills and stuff like that. So in order to switch to liquid chlorine, we would have to build a substantial chlorine facility, more than likely up by the reservoir and not down by half the building wall. So I just wanted to throw that in there just so.
You commented about possibly looking at front plows versus a grader. Is there a rationale for that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So through the counselor, Kelly, through a lot of the training I've taken in my time here, one of the things that's coming up a lot is like pre-wetting. So when you're close to zero, breaking that bond between the snow and the road, pre-wetting hills and stuff like this, Main Road has taken it on. I've been talking with their operations manager about it and how it works, and in our valley with our temperatures always dancing around 0, I wanted to explore that option. As opposed to a $550,000 grader. Could we get 2 front plows and maybe one would have sanding unit, another would have a pre-wet unit. So before we jump into a grader, looking into the business case and coming back to you guys and seeing. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll carry on. Go on the right slide here. So long-term financial sustainability, these are projects where we're data gathering, getting more information for grant opportunities or future projects and decision making. 10th Avenue lift station is a pretty small facility with 2 pumps in it. We have concerns from our electrical contractor about the panel in there. Situation that we don't have any lifting devices, and then it was struck by a loader in snow removal operations. You can see the kind of Band-Aid framework on the left-hand side there. It was built in '83 and it would need to be upgraded soon, so we would like to have the design done. Because we want to package that into future grant opportunities. The main sewage pumping station, as you know, our capacity of our facility at the lagoons has been taxed. This has also been taxed. We've been hitting more and more situations where unfortunately we have to release raw effluent to the river. The facility can handle roughly 220 liters a second. And then we have to sit on site and monitor manually and make sure we don't lose it. So looking at the capacity of that one, there's also some safety concerns in there too, with the backup generator fuel tank being inside, things like that. But the main issue is starting to look into the capacity of that. Any questions? So this is another one, project that are going to inform master planning and decision making. The Elko gravel pit, we had 6 orders from the Ministry of Mines. We resolved 5. The remaining order to update our mine permit is where we are at. We submitted the application to update the permit and kind of unlocked a whole bunch of new things that we need to look into. And then the question came up, is it worth actually opening the mine and pulling out the gravel? Or should we be looking at reclaiming it now and walking away, because we're gonna have to reclaim the mine later on? So anyway, that's the, to steal Mayor Milligan's term, the business case that we want to come back to you with for a decision. Right now, the orders that we've resolved are for public safety, i.e. dirt bikes going in there and tearing around. So I think we've secured that with the proper signage and the proper gate and the berms. But now that we're into the mine permit, is it worth pursuing? Next on the list is the Forest Main Bank erosion. We actually were notified by a local around this Warwick Road area. We have a single force main pipe that runs in that area, and his concern was the bank erosion. So we looked into it, and we have our GIS mapping, which tells us where our pipe is, but we would like to do a survey of the area and get a baseline and see how close is it to our only pipe that goes between the city and the lagoons? And is it eroding year over year? And should we be concerned? And is there anything we should do about it? But step one is get a survey and get a baseline. That's that project. Pavement condition assessment, this is just a condition index for the pavement around town. To let us know the condition of what it's in, help us prioritize it, and it'll inform our IICP plans and give us like informed with the verdettes, 20-year plan going forward. Stormwater model validation, once again, informing master planning, as well as our people coming to us for development requests and their data when they want to tie into our system. Any questions? Next on the list is pretty quick, CP rail. This was never a formal trail, nor did it have agreement with CP, and it took a hit in the atmosphere burger of 2021. The step that we want to take this year is pursuing an agreement with CP rail and potentially doing design and construction of the trail in 2024.
If I may, Chair to Mayor and Council, that trail is a really important trail for active transportation and connectivity in the community. And we were denied all of our disaster recovery funding applications to remediate that trail because it was created without the proper permitting and paperwork in place. So step one for us is to secure the paperwork for that trail so that we can then invest in it responsibly, so that if there is another flood or damage, we can then also take advantage of the disaster recovery funds that we should have been reviewed previously. So it's just writing a past gap and then being ready to address it in the future.
To have that there, the main reason why the funds were pulled was because we didn't have a means. Step one. Step one.
These are under the theme of building an inclusive community. So this one is the active transportation preliminary and detailed design for 72,000. So this is coming directly out of the 2021 active transportation master plan, and it recommended upgrades for active transportation that were divided into 3 priority groups, A, B, C. And this budget is to complete the detailed design and cost estimate for the priority A, pedestrian and rolling categories in preparation for grant application in 2023. They're fairly reliable provincial funding stream that's been annual for the last many years, the active transportation infrastructure grant program, and it does require construction ready projects with detailed design. So by funding the detailed design, we're hoping we can make the application to that grant stream or others. And the design includes the top 7 missing sidewalk links that were identified as priority, as well as the 4th and 13th Street multi. De-risk affordable housing sites. We're calling this de-risking is essentially we're doing enough preliminary site analysis to identify any major deal breakers in the city lands to support multifamily development. So it's proposed that for 2 different city-owned lots, we would complete modeling exercises to confirm that based on proposed zoning of those lots, the existing sewer and water system have capacity to support that new development. And then for one of the sites, we're planning to go into more detail of engineering the services that will be required to service the site and
There a quick question about that, if I may, is the nature of that cost such that it is unique for each individual location, like every location of city property that would potentially be used would have to undergo the same type of inspection and de-risk analysis and so on, like not once we've identified it for one city lot, it's appropriate to all, am I correct in that?
yes, you're correct, the nature of the cost, we have a ballpark from our consultants who manage our models in the range of 3,000 to 6,000 per site to run the models and determine the capacity, and then the increased cost is being there. But the main driver is the actual installation of the services, so it's one thing is to do a desktop exercise to confirm the servicing is feasible, but then depending on the lot, the servicing could be vastly different in cost. Someone could just be installing a lateral from the existing main right into the property, which would be quite cheap, and others would be extending a main, for example, which would be order magnitude bigger, so the cost to analyze it is very similar each time, but not.
Okay, thank you.
And then the Annex Park Playground and Amphitheater for 250,000, the ideation and planning for these two projects were part of the design for the Annex Dike upgrades and active transportation improvements project. So the goal of the park improvements is to provide park activities that promote wellness and benefit the overall community. And these objectives for the wellness stations, they were were developed as part of an advisory group, which engaged a variety of public members in late 2021. And through the 2023 plan is to construct a wellness station.
The Mayor, Chair,
Oh,
thank you, through the Mayor and Council, there's a report in that specifically about the award for these structures and the funding for these park enhancements. They are established a destination park, and the base funding for these improvements is the Resort Development Strategy Carry Forward Fund that is previously discussed.
thank you for the
Interesting our community. So these are projects that I'm working on currently, and they don't really have capital overhead, but it's operational right now. The fleet policy, the aim is to, or the intent is to govern the way in which we present our fleet with to include green fleet initiatives. So at what hours or life span would we replace the fleet, and when would we do that with electricity? The second one is a road use policy. This is to govern or control commercial use of our roads. This would assist in holding commercial and heavy users accountable for whether that be blind performance on road down. There's been one of these.
I have a question on the second one. I feel like that's one that has come up repeatedly in the past, and just curious is what's been the challenge to get to there now? Like, I feel like it's been raised numerous times over the previous years, and I know it's not trivial to do, but what is something changed that we're doing it now, or is it just taking a long time?
Yeah, I can speak to that here. Up till now, we would follow Modi's road restrictions, seasonal road restrictions. However, we have commercial users that come through town and we use it outside of those road restrictions. And really put damage on our road that the taxpayers now going to eat the cost. The idea was to come forward with a policy, like Ms. Slinger said, maybe a bond or some sort of assurance that the taxpayer is not going to take the excessive wear and tear on our roads. For the most part, they've been abiding by the weight restrictions. However, that doesn't stop heavy traffic on Fourth every other month of the year. Hopefully that's
It's specifically for Mayor and Council, the reason it hasn't advanced has been capacity. Not having someone who's been able to make that their priority with the other competing priorities in engineering and public works as we've been redeveloping and then creating the capacity in that department to deliver on its initiative.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Just
Councilor,
just wondering what the process looks like for that, is it scale? Or like, how do we make sure that people are just, it's not a test of character.
Yeah, I believe it would be more of a pre and post inspection, potentially using a consultant to have first and determine excessive. And then go there.
Last one is water quality monitoring and analysis. Manager Weir spoke to the Ferry Creek. Managing years doing all of the analysis on the location exemption as well as this line values that we're seeing at James Lake Well. Going to be a continued concern, we're looking into the health and tech on it. The analysis and sampling and again, proving our team.
yeah, a quick one about that one, because this has come up repeatedly. It is a concern. I'm curious, along with the monitoring and analysis program that's going on right now, is there, within your department, has there been discussion yet about once we, if, I shouldn't, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say once we do, I'll say if we do start to reach threshold of concern on a regular basis, discussing what the plan of action and who will be involved over that, has that discussion begun?
Yeah, so, we've been taking kind of short-term measurements of precautions, I guess, when we are seeing values over the maximum allowable concentration of sodium. The team is working on stronger solutions.
Yeah.
We do have a concern with turbidity will be high at one source. Sodium is the other source. Yeah, concerned about them.
Thank you.
If I could provide a little more context as well, the operating project does include consulting fees to analyze a year of data. We're coming up on a year lot higher frequency collection and palladium analysis. So before we had very few samples, only what was required by regulation to install the wells. And now we have a lot more data. And so the point of that is to have the consultant make recommendations about continuing that volume of data or increasing it or decreasing it, but be understanding better the connectivity between the elk and our James White Well aquifer is the main intent of this, because we don't currently know whether how highly connected they are and the lag time between the contaminants in the elk and our.
If I could jump in quickly, Chair, one part of the question, I think maybe some clarity on. There is a procedure right now for us, if we hit that threshold, that's already in place, we shut down the automated system, flip it to manual and keep testing till we're under and then we go back. What Manager Selinger said about our concern in spring when we have turbidity, it was a selenium side, now we're in the water evaluation situation again.
Which would be good.
Hey, you, in your slide there in the bullet point, it says tech funding cost, can you expand, like, are they funding all of the costs of monitoring, testing, and staff time, or what does that look like?
At this point, they're covering all that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have the subdivision and development servicing bylaw engagement. So these funds are proposed to complete public and stakeholder engagement on the draft of the servicing bylaw, which excited to say is, finally at a point where staff are really comfortable with the draft and want to publicize it and share it and get feedback. So the services do include community engagement specialists, as well as some more engineering consulting to support us in addressing the stakeholder feedback that we may receive. And then will be brought for adoption as well, the summary of what we heard from public engagement. And then the phase one fire hall, I kind of touched on this briefly at the December regular meeting, when this is, in an early budget approval, but the aim of this is to build on work underway, which we're nearing completion of the fire hall needs assessment, and then progress the fire hall project by engaging professional services to guide discussion and ultimately make a recommendation for the final site selection, to develop the terms of reference and implement a community advisory committee that will be engaged throughout the continued planning stage to advise on community priorities, to implement an education strategy to socialize what we know from our fire hall needs assessment, so we can build community understanding of what exactly needs to be in a new fire hall and why it's going to cost the amount that it's going to cost. And then to issue a public expression of interest to identify any potential partners, the private landowners, developers, other regional partners that might be interested in partnering on the project, or we proceed towards determining finance.
Okay, next, thank you, Councilor Kaiser. So in here it says. Oh, it appeared.
How do I go back? Oh,
It's okay, it said finalized site selection. And many moons ago, I think we had that big discussion already. You know,
yes, so we would just review and pull on, highlight the work done to date and council an opportunity to confirm that that's their preferred option, or whether there are other potential options. Not repeating.
If I may, there was a little discussion, as we were refilling waters and seas during the break, about timeline of where council will start to re-engage. Pending budget approval is where you have, I don't want to be overconfident in speaking without having you got that, a general idea of what that timeline looks like.
Yes, so the, at the March committee of the whole, you'll receive the fire hall needs assessment, report, and that's summary of, takeaways from that, as well as a little bit more detail on what's been drafted into the RFP. We'll have it drafted by the March committee of the whole, and then the plan would be to issue that right away following in March, and hire on consultant hopefully in April. 4 to 6 weeks probably.
The final slide here is our grant dependent projects. On the top and the picture to the right is the SDF grant, or Consolidated Infrastructure Renewal Project. It's a mouthful. It's basically a main town south project, primarily focused on wastewater infiltration, targeting those 11 brick manholes in alignment with our IICP. I believe the report came spring last year, targeting bad waters. That's your infiltration, getting the roads up to APM, or Active Transportation Master Plan standards, which is up to 100% funded, which we're waiting on hearing about. Also the CNL realignment, so that is the water and sewer on the bank across the river, essentially moving on us and leaking on us, relocating that up to Burma Road. The third one is the Mountain View Dike project, primarily focused on the Coal Creek bin wall, also up to 100% funded, but also touching on a few places where we need heighten the dike heightened and widened. One thing I wanted to touch on too, back to Councilor Ramados's question quite a while ago. What's your plan? Did you get these for your work plan? So in our work plan, we've identified a bunch of the projects, some of which we've spoken about tonight, which we can defer, and I think agreed upon that those would probably 1 or 2 or 3 of these and start looking at our capacity. We would put those ones out and focus on the money on the list. Any questions on any of the projects?
Great, thank you. Yes. Oh, it's good. Yes, it's good. Yes, it's good. Sorry. It's getting long. I will go away.
wanted to be part of the podium team.
Very natural.
I'm gonna guess it very.
Very fun, we'll forward.
Yeah. So from the corporate administration services side, you'll be presented Mark and myself, and human resources manager. Neil, and health and safety manager, Aaron Haley. Deputy Clerk Meredith Daniel is actually at the specified place right now, helping support that system, so hopefully we'll be able to present this well for you. Primarily, I want to talk about like 2 projects from my office part of it, and I'll be handing it off to health and safety and resources for their own project. But for the most part, you'll find out, of course, that with us, our projects are not infrastructure related, they're not great big buildings and infrastructure around, they're staff resources requirement. So you know a lot of what we do already, we support you. And we should continue to support that work. And of course, one of the projects we've got on the go right now is the finding and working with and developing a public meeting space for council to have its meetings. So we don't run into problems like people not necessarily talking loud enough for the microphones. And it wasn't just councilors, I can tell you that as I was now thinking one of the things I want to do with our staff is to help them be in a position when they're presenting their projecting. So it's something I've identified, but we'll obviously need to work on. But the 2 projects, the corporate services department of our department, that I'm going to be talking about tonight are records management, which is something that's been identified for quite a time that needs to be supported, as well as council community support. Now, the council community that you guys wanted to create. On the records management side, there was a report provided by a consultant to the city of Fernie in 2020 before I got hired. There has not been very much follow-up on that report since that time. It's now time to pick that up and move that, advance that project forward. So one of the things we're looking to do is internally upgrading and educating our staff on what is called the LGMA system, which is Local Government Management Association, but it's essentially a file sharing methodology, which has a very clear guide, which is about 350 pages long. And it's our plan to ensure that every department gets well trained on that so that they're all using that system properly, so that if we got somebody who leaves, somebody comes in, we should be able to find the file without having to try and figure out what that system was that that particular director and manager was working on. And they could be leaving for any reason, including that leave, that kind of thing. So that's the focus of 2023, but the report itself will also drive. We're looking to do an RFP to bring in assistance in upgrading our records management systems beyond the file sharing system. They will be using the report and our staff time to prepare that RFP to get us in position to make a more robust records management program. The other one is, of course, council community support. Now, council has identified clearly they want to re-engage community committees. In doing that, one of the things we have an obligation to do is to provide basically the same support we provide to you. So that would be providing all agenda preparation, ensuring that the meeting space is coordinated, as well as doing the public notification, and then making the reports proper and public as well. For all the support we do to you to make it an open and transparent government, we could provide that same support to that communities, to those communities, regardless of what structure they are, if they're a committee of all council, or if they're a advisory committee, or if they're a special committee that's got a project on the go. Fire hall is one, and another one that was identified earlier would be the thank you, the accessibility. So in part of the obligation of communities to create the accessibility plan and then for the accessibility community. And so we have to prepare that and work with that. So you'll see that one of the things that we identified as well is that last year we had 2 support staff who were exempt, who were supporting council in the deputy clerk role and I can't remember what the name of the title was, but one of them was a contract position. It was not, it is ended at the end of 2022. It's our hope that we would then be able to make that position a permanent position, put it in finance, and then that position will support Deputy Clerk Daniel and myself, as we advance all these projects. And as I say, it's not infrastructure in the ground, it's people we need to advance this project. And in saying that, I want to point out as well that these projects do identify with our strategic organizational objectives. Under records management, it includes improved capacity for communication engagements. Obviously, timely and correct information sharing is really important, and records management is not working, we're not doing that very. Future proofing our community, or strong records keeping helps us identify all the stuff we've done in the past. And investing in core service delivery, again, supporting open and transparent decisions and providing these kind of support from our records management. The same thing is true with respect to the council's committed support. So while they're human resource based, they're staff time based, they do need a strategic organizational objective on the asset management side as well. So that's a community, and that's a question. Awesome.
Good evening, Mayor, and Council. This is just a quick overview of the achievements that were accomplished with the first year of having a human resources manager in the city. At a glance, we've hired 56 employees. From that, we've created a recruitment and selection manual that helps set a consistent standard across the board for managers and directors to implement in their future hiring needs. We've developed a corporate orientation and then streamlined the onboarding process. We became involved in some community engagement initiatives. We attended the community job fair and alongside with Manager Hill, launched a recruitment outreach campaign within the school. We successfully had successful negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters. And we have implemented a revised performance review process, starting with the leadership and management and exempt teams. From there, we'll be building the framework outwards to the rest of the staff. We've initiated like an administrative development program, which includes coverage, backfill, reduces the organizational risk and will impact the business continuity, just improving the processes across the organization. We have built an RFP and initiated the exempt compensation review, which is carrying into this year, and a report to council and the conclusion of that project will be coming in the spring. We facilitated some exempt team building training sessions and coordinated the first all staff meeting in 2 years for city staff. So it was really good to unify collectively across the departments and as an organization. And continually, we're standardizing some core HR services across the organization, driving towards eventually becoming one of the BC top employers. For 2023, it's not capital projects, it's largely operational work plans, and it also impacts all the departments as well. We are initiating a policy project, similar to Director McConnell, evaluating our current state of our policies, what's council policies, what's administration, or could be one or the other. That will be coming to council as a complete analysis. And then from there, hopefully repeal some old outdated policies and then implement the framework for building those HR policies moving forward. For compelling communication and engagement, working on continually focusing on retention of the staff and employees that we have received up to the level. Yeah.
Thank you, the previous slide, it's just a lot of work there. But the question is, for you guys, enough resource to deliver on 56 hiring is no joke. The entire of last year in my primary job, they would hire one person and that took me like 4 months.
So I definitely immersed myself in the hiring process. And from that created that recruitment selection manual. So moving forward now, there is like a guiding document for all managers and directors to be hiring mostly their staff, whereas HR then can now focus more on the retention of staff.
So the answer is your adequately. No,
But only because it's her.
Yeah, no, thank you if I can. There are some administrative supports required, of course. The position previously that was contracting corporate administration services did support HR to a degree, has also supported health and safety to a degree. They're two hugely important central critical positions. They will be making more demands and more needs on our general administration services. You can always add additional resources to human resources, and labor relations, and health and safety, and see benefit. We're really fortunate to have someone who's very good at what they do, building the department from the ground up. I would anticipate that as we continue to move forward, you're going to see requests for additional resources or support for that department, because truly it's been a huge benefit to the organization. And as we improve consistency in our processes, and as we are able to recruit and fill positions more quickly, it's unfortunately one of those cost drivers, because there's less slippage, there's less time with vacant seats. You do see better performance, but you do see reduced savings in terms of your salary numbers at the end of the year. But it really has provided for big improvements to our business continuity. As is health and safety provided to really great improvements to our occupational health and safety and being a healthy and safe and respectful workplace. So yeah, they are overall under-resourced, but we will have to do some work on determining what capacity within corporate administration services can support their work based on the demands of council and communities, the need for records management and more. So there's more business case to be done.
Thank you. Indeed, a remarkable set of achievements for new department.
Thank you. So for 2023, tied to the strategic objectives, as mentioned, focusing on retention, improving organizational culture, and having more employee engagement initiative will tie into that objective. Future-proofing our community is just the continual development of HR programs that have been started or are part of the long-term HR strategic plan, and then building the framework of the department, as well as investing in core service delivery for our organization. Yeah. Any questions? No. I'll hand it over to David.
If I made one last point on human resources, thank you, Chair, to Mayor and Council. The postings are certainly no joke, and you're right, Councilor Ramada. That does include like our internal postings, and so the bumping up and down and moving laterally or around the organization. So it's not as if the organization is C56, departures and then complete replacements in a year. That's not to minimize the impact of having a really good functioning HR department, just to provide some context. Thank you.
Good evening. We'll start with our 2022 safety improvements. The year proved to be very valuable in the health and safety program. There was a lot of growth and a lot of participation. We've seen an overall incident reduction from 5.6 to 1.0% in 2022, and that's averaged for 100,000 of hours of work exposure on a works, which is really good, meaning we only hurt one person in the last year, and not severe.
Thanks. Exactly what I wanted to ask you that number. What is 1.0 out of 100,000 actually mean? That means one injury.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
We also seen a 283% growth in our proactive reporting system for our hazard IDs and near misses. These systems help us improve safety before they actually become incidents. So what I was looking at here was trying to grow the program in a proactive manner where we have participation from our employees. In this sense, our employees engaged in the process significantly, and we are identifying hazards proactively, and we are reporting near misses when they occur. Further, we implemented the injury prevention tool. The injury prevention plan tool is actually part of our risk management processes, which is the overall structure of our health and safety program, which is geared at reducing risk to our employees. This tool has been worked into all areas of the organization, and our employees that are feet on the ground are working very well with this program and embracing it. Aside from that, we introduced digital inspection processes. Those digital inspection processes are being collected on our SiteDocs platform, which I will talk to you about a little bit more in the next slide. The safety department facilitated 187 internal training courses last year. These could range from corporate health and safety orientation, limited fall protection courses, or any other courses that fall in line. The workers' compensation experience rating was reduced by 3.4% comparative to our prior year, meaning that we are reporting less incidents and we are hurting less people overall. In 2019, when the safety program started, one of the things that was happening was exposure to the work environment was more than 3 times the average on an incident base. Today, over the last 2 years, we have been able to maintain our actual injury rates at less or better than the average of all like employers in that classification unit, like employers would be other municipalities. So we've seen significant increases in our safety processes and programs there. Moving forward into the 2023 operational work plan for health and safety. The focus that we're going to be looking at here this year is the training standard. Looking at developing the standard to increase specifically equipment training, which reduces incidents related to supporting to actual damage related incidents, that are improving our service delivery out in the field by not having to reactively report these types of incidents. To support that, the certificate of recognition has been a long-term goal of the organization, which is commonly called the core audit. This program actually, when we proactively improve our processes, we stand to gain approximately 20% in incentive payment from work to BC off of our premium. So we'll continue to work towards gaining that status. Aside from that, SiteDocs implementation over the last couple of years has gone excellent. We are using an electronic platform to compile all of our data into a collection system where our employees can actively engage in the system out in the field. You can fill out forms, you can view resources, you can ask for assistance, you can view certifications on site very easily from the field. We are also looking at prioritizing safety to achieve incident reduction under this piece of this platform. Our employees are engaging well. Next, we're looking at fostering a proactive work environment, which contributes to employee engagement, and our employees are engaging well in this platform. They're very happy. They can use their mobile devices. We can use desktops. We can use iPads, anything we really choose to work with on this platform. And everyone's engaging well. Thank you.
Just, not understand what that 2.8% discount on what said, if you could elaborate on that one.
The 3.4%.
2.4, yes.
So essentially what happens is our premiums are on a 3-year rolling average, and depending on the amount of claims that are actually claimed against that account, will decide whether or not you're reducing the premiums overall. There's a baseline charge that is charged to all organizations in that classification unit, so all municipalities.
So we get safer, we pay less.
Just to add a dollar figure to that, that's about, with our current salary ranges, the state is about $220,000 in our benefit cost, so not insignificant.
That's.
Saves us how much?
Yeah, and I touched on that a bit yesterday when I was, actually I'm gonna show that slide shortly here again. But one of the costs is benefit increases, and without the saving, that benefit increase would have been a lot more with our added salary this year. So, you know,
But really safety pays off.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's been in people.
So any other questions from my partner?
Have one suggestion to make, this maybe we can start with health and safety for them.
Is that your next?
Yeah, I apologize.
That's fine. I just want to take a minute to say this one thing. As you can tell from these two fine presenters this evening and the work they've done in the very brief time they've both been on these programs. As well as the work of Deputy Clerk Daniel, who is obviously not as present tonight as she has been for you for the past few meetings. I wanted to show just how easy it was for me to walk away from the office for a couple of weeks over Christmas in the month of January, knowing that those three people were holding their own as well as these guys make my job really easy. As well as Deputy Clerk Daniel, I can't forget her. So thank you for that. And thank you, both of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that presentation because I feel that corporate administration is one of those things that's much more difficult than average for people to wrap their heads around what are the costs and benefits of that. Particular thing, I think it's really a bit nebulous. I think.
Try to explain the function, what do you do?
Yeah. So, but seeing a direct impact on the improvement of the work environment for our staff and coupled with a financial benefit, it's pretty hard to miss the value. Are we done? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Thomas, please go ahead.
Thanks, Justin.
I was monologuing.
Can I just ask, can we backtrack to the contracted position? And sorry, just for history.
No, it's good.
Context for me. Why was it a contract position? Why wasn't it added? As it?
So, it wasn't, so, we have mat leave, brought in a contract for the mat leave, and then when the mat leave returned, at that time, we extended the contract. Three benefits that we were experiencing. However, we never made the position permanent at the time, we didn't have opportunity. We basically wanted to go through this 5-year process to ensure that the opportunity to make a permanent position was going to be supported by council. Prior to really fully vetting what the position is going to be like. When we extended, we didn't fully define the position as well. So this gives us an opportunity to better define the position, to ensure we know what we're doing with it and to better use it. But the process to be great. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Any hands up on the screen?
Mayor and council, we have a couple more slides to go. I'm going to ask Ms. Rhodes to be prepared to present, and I will share screen again momentarily. As we touch on communication, which we are treating for the purposes of this presentation as part of corporate administration, all the communications report directly to the CAO, and it's essentially adjacent but part of the same team.
We consider her part of our team, which comes to the same function.
There we are. Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. Are you good?
Thank you. So you've all heard about many projects tonight that will undoubtedly be touching my work plan and the communications department and requiring support. But I wanted to draw your attention to a few of the more major initiatives and projects on the work plan, all centered around advancing our commitment to compelling and timely communications and engagement. The first that we've again talked about a lot tonight is initiating and identifying opportunities for more in-person community engagement. And you'll see that starting next week with the budget open house. And again, there's been a number of projects talked about in other department slides, but a lot of them center around extensive community consultation, and that will be part of this work. And you'll also see in this, I'll be working with corporate services to explore a series of town halls or similar opportunities to give council some opportunity for further engagement with the community. Another project on the list is a master content calendar with the aim of capturing some of our recurring campaigns and improving coordination between our internal initiatives. So I'll be working with our administrative coordinator to develop and operationalize an improved internal calendar. Again, part of the goal with that is building capacity across our departments to be able to celebrate and inform the public on some of the departmental initiatives, and also allow me to have more time to focus on supporting some of those other major projects, including working with external consultants on some of those bigger engagement projects that you have seen presented tonight. Also looking with this at creating a more holistic view across the organization of timing for major one-time projects, ensuring that we have both the resources to support them to the level that's required, and also that we aren't contributing to engagement fatigue in our community, and that we're doing this strategically when we are asking for that input. Another big project would be the redesign of the citizen satisfaction survey, that with a framework as well for continued community input, and also to integrate that into our budget process. So the intention of this project is to work with a consultant to repurpose the existing survey and to deliver a statistically valid survey. And the contract would also include analysis of that data. Director Burdett is also going to be exploring an updated timeline for budget, and I'd be working with his team and our asset management team on ways of integrating the survey into that process and ensuring that the feedback that we receive will be able to influence the budget process moving forward. Another big project, again, brand renewal and a refreshed photo inventory. That's a project, again, aimed at building capacity to support the communications function, as well as delivering some consistency in our messaging and delivery across the organization. So we have identified some gaps in our current branding, and our existing style guide, as many of you know, is very outdated. So we'd be looking to hire a consultant to assist us with updating the templates and the use guidelines. Again, that would help us build some capacity across departments and allow us to provide a standardized approach also when working with other agencies and consultants. Our photo assets, they are from 2014, again, very dated. Updating this imagery is important for both enhancing our digital and print communication, as well as maintaining an up-to-date image that we are able to use to promote our community and the amenities in their current state that we're also proud of. Both of these projects are in the 2023 budget, and they've also been identified as important first steps in the website development project that is budgeted in 2024. And that brings me to the last major project on my list, which is the website needs assessment and project team initiation. Again, this is a operating project that would be conducted internally with the asset management team to identify internal requirements for the integration of our existing software into a new website, also determine areas for improvement and enhancement, and begin looking at external websites from other municipalities and identifying content needs with our departments internally. Again, on top of that, we'd be supporting the communications function. We'll be supporting a number of major projects that are all working towards advancing our strategic organizational objectives. Again, you've heard a lot of them tonight, but some of the big ones would be the OCP, the skate park redevelopment project as that continues to move forward, the fire hall project, also our Recycle BC transition, organics collection, a carry forward from the last year's budget, the development approvals enhancement project, and the subdivision servicing bylaw engagement piece. And that is the sort of main gist of what the communications initiatives look like for 2023.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Mayor? Thank you for that. Perfect.
Thank you. I just have two wrap-up slides for this evening. Working here. Here you go, sir. This is the slide that we ended with last night. It describes our preliminary shortfall. It's basically the same as last night, except for that top number has been updated for the increase in business licenses, the increased expense for the LGLA conference, and the increased revenue that I just found out about late this afternoon from Fortis. So that new number, $551,000 shortfall, translates to a 6.81% tax increase, should it all be funded by tax, which is roughly for the average house in Fernie is roughly $11.51 a month, or an extra $138 a year. And then there's also an option available that we will discuss when it comes time to ask for direction for a tax rate, and it's our COVID safe restart funds that are still remaining, and there's about $285,000 worth of those. Council can elect to use any amount of those to reduce the shortfall, and I've talked to a few other CFOs, and nobody really recommends doing this because there's more cons than there are pros. A pro would be kind of creating a 2-year step program for residents to weather this 6.8% increase. Con is you no longer have these funds available to do something else with. Secondly, if you were to use them all, that would reduce this year's tax increase to 3.3%, but it right off the hop commits you to the 3.5% increase in 2024, which is not a comfortable place to be starting from, but it does remain an option to look at for council, so I haven't picked up. And then our next meeting is next Wednesday, February 15th, at the Senior Center. It's our budget open house. Between now and then, our annual budget at a glance document will be published and available online and at City Hall. It'll also be available at that open house. I just need to update some tables in there based on these first two meetings, and then it should be mostly good to go. And that concludes our first two budget meetings.
And following the, sorry.
I just wanted to ask the director, Bert will send us the updated slides, like digitally.
Yeah, slides, and I'm going to reprint the binder and let you know when that's ready.
I thought you will have all the slides for today as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we might talk about the survey here. Well, maybe. When did I?
Yes, that was provided as an attachment to last night's agenda, and if there's any comments or feedback on it, then we can.
Thank you. Ms. Jansen and Ms. Rose did a really good job, along with Director Burdett, in helping us look at all previous citizen satisfaction surveys, where they were updated and are good contemporary tools, as well as budget surveys that would gather the pulse check, council would discuss, sufficient feedback on the budget, but also potentially give us something to look at whether it's changing, whether we've got a trend changing over time from our last survey 2 years ago. So we're trying to do that initial pulse check that council was after, while still having time to build a really solid plan for citizen satisfaction overall. The thing I do want to mention on surveys is Ms. Jensen and Ms. Rose and I have discussed as well with Verdict how the level of service project where we work internally and with asset management VP to define our service areas and service, and then the external conversation about our service areas and levels of service might in the future inform a really specific survey for the community that aligns with all of that work. So it's not to say that this year's product will be the be all and end all, but you can expect evolution and development over time.
I think that's incredibly important, because I find one of the challenges with the information about projects and so on that's coming with the budget information, which is incredibly valuable. But one of the challenges, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels about this, but without a without sort of a parallel comprehensive understanding of service level impacts for moving forward on those particular requests or not moving forward on them or delaying the request and so on, we don't know what the impact is. Right, so for example, choosing to say, no, we're going to, and I'm just picking a random example, no, we're not gonna do the entire fleet request, we're gonna only do half. Does that have a impact on the results for roads outside of that? Like, there's no way to do it. You know, some stuff is very apparent, some stuff is not as apparent for service level impact. When certain decisions are made at the budget, if we decide, no, we're gonna reduce that level. So that providing a good view of service level, depending what the impact is on, both from the public and also from that. I think would really help in council's ability to understand the impact of the decision making on the budget. So. Any further comments from council, mayor? Anyone? Okay, is that it for tonight?
Your worship, and chair and council, that's it for tonight. We now are preparing for the open house next week, preparing the boards, the survey, budget at a glance, and making sure that everything is good to go. And we are very much looking forward to seeing you in the community there.
Thanks, and we're back at the regular meeting. Do we have, do we have another special meeting that's specific budget related, you know? This month?
No, the recap and tax rate discussion will be an item on the 28th regular meeting of council.
Thank you all very much. It was fantastic, very appreciated. And that's it. We are adjourned.